guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I am going to try and do a process video and make another one of these altered hoops. Now I'm going to do the same sort of thing, but it's going to be slightly different because I'm going to use different elements and a picture of my younger daughter. So the first thing I need to do is do the base coat for the actual hoop. So if we look at this one, we can see that it's got this really gorgeous crackle effect. And to do that, I'm going to use a crackle medium. But you need your contrasting colours. So I'm going to use a dark colour on the underneath and then the paler colour over the top, which will crackle to reveal some of that nice dark colour. So the dark colour that I'm using is De La Rowney Graduates Acrylics, and it's in indigo. Now I'm hoping I've got enough of this left because there's not much in here. And obviously I can't just go out and buy more at the moment. So fingers crossed I will have enough in here, even if I have to cut the tube open to get to what's left. But we'll see. So try and get what's left of the paint out. Okay, I'll try not to get it all because I might want a little bit just for if I've got any wooden elements and things. I might paint those. Now I don't need to do the inside of the hoop because I'm going to cover that with paper, so it is just the outside of the hoop and the front edge that I need to make sure is painted. And obviously I want to make sure it's got a good coat because I don't want, when it crackles, I don't want it to crackle back to see the cardboard. I want it to crackle back to the indigo colour. So not massively interesting. I am just going to paint it. So it's sort of getting late-ish on now on Thursday night. So I just thought that if I made a start, then when it comes to getting going tomorrow morning, this bit will already be done and the paint will be dry. So I'm just going to give this a coat of paint, and then the metal bow, I'm going to give that a coat of this as well if there's enough of the paint, because again, although I'm not going to crackle the bow, I did distress it on the other one, and I distressed it back so that you could see some of the blue paint in places. So I've put a piece of scrap paper down so that obviously I don't end up with paint all over my desk. And I'm just doing the front edge. Again, I'm not going to bother with the back edge because it's going to be covered in paper anyway. When I come to put the backing sheet on, it'll be covered by that, so that bit doesn't need to be covered. And like I say, the inside of this will be covered with the patterned paper. So I'm not too worried about. I did paint the inside of the other one just so that if there were any sort of gaps in the paper, it wouldn't show. So it started out by doing this. I was just trying to catch that top edge just in case the top edge showed when I put the paper on, and I ended up painting the whole thing. But you can't see any of it on the other one that I've done. So I'm not going to go too crazy. I am just going to catch that top edge there so that I don't have to be 100% perfect with the paper if I don't quite paper it perfectly. It won't matter too much. So that's that. So I'm going to leave that to dry overnight, and then tomorrow morning we'll come back to that one, and we'll pop the crackle medium on it. So the other thing that I want to paint is my bows. Should have turned that off before I started, but I didn't. There we go. So I've got these metal bows. These are, as you can see, they're from the works. I actually got them in the sale. They were 50p in the sale. And I've got to say, I don't particularly like the brassy gold colour that they come in naturally. But I knew that I would be able to paint over them and alter them to what I want them to be. So because I haven't got much paint, again, I'm not going to paint the whole thing unless I've got enough paint to do it. I'm going to start by focusing on the areas where I know that I'm going to rub it back. So that's particularly around the top bits here. Like that. The middle bit's going to be covered anyway because I'm going to put a letter on there, a letter sticker for her name, the same way as I did with my other daughters. So I'm just going to give that. You can put a bit of gesso down first as well, but you won't actually end up seeing an awful lot of this colour anyway, because it's just where I sort of rub it back, and I can actually always dry brush a little bit of the indigo on, but seeing as there's a bit in the palette that would just go to waste, I might as well give it these edge bits a coat of the paint to rub it back to. And that's it. So that's as much as I'm going to do for that. And then again, I'm going to leave that to dry, and then in the morning I will mix up the sort of grey blue colour that I've used over the top, and we can do the crackle medium on the hoop, and we can paint this ready for being distressed. So I will see you all in the morning. Okay, so I have painted the hoop, as you saw, and I've also put a layer of crackle medium on. I've put some of this Americana decor crackle medium. It's a couple of days later now. I think life took over yesterday, and I didn't actually get any time in the craft room. So the blue paint's had plenty of time to dry. It's got a good layer of the crackle coat on, and that's now set off to one side to dry. And I'm going to start on the background. So that's a piece of this wood effect paper. And that's the same as what I did in the background of this one. You don't see loads of it, but it is sort of peeking out here and there. And also there is some texture paste on the background. Now I used a heart stencil on that one, but I think I might use a different stencil on this one. So I've got another one of the hoops, and I'm just going to use this to put a very light line around the inside of this hoop, and that is so I don't put texture paste where I'm going to want to set the hoop, because otherwise it won't lay flat. So I don't know if you can actually sort of see that on the camera. It is fairly light. There you go. So I've just put a circle all the way around the inside of that hoop, and that'll just give me a guide as to where to put my texture paste. So let's have a look. I just had a load of stencils delivered from AliExpress. So it's choosing what one. I quite like the circle one. That's a Halloweeny one. Oh, I think I'm going to go with that one. I like this. This is a harlequin pattern, but it's a slightly off. It's not quite straight. It's a bit sort of squint, and I really like that. It's a little bit quirky. So I'm going to use that to put some texture paste down into the background of this page. So obviously, like I say, avoiding where I want the hoop to sit flat. So for texture paste, I usually will make my own texture paste, or I will sometimes use this stuff, quick drying filler. Now this one, I've not had it long, and I've had to cut the top off and find some usable filler in it, because it had sort of set in the tube. I think it has been doing that since I had it, actually, because when I first cut it open, I really struggled to get any texture paste out, and there was a great big glob of it in the middle of the tube that was sort of set. So I mean, it's only from the pound shop, so can't expect much, I suppose. But so yeah, I've just taken out a bit. I don't want the background covered completely. I just want elements of it here and there, like I say, avoiding that where I know the hoop's going to be. But if I do go over, like I have done there, that's fine. I will just go in a second and scrape that off before it dries. So I'm doing this now, and then when it can be drying while the hoop's drying. There we go. There we go. So, there's that wipe. I will now just go and take all of the excess off. Now, I do apologise if my voice is a bit croaky. It's not early here. It's about 8:30, something like that. But I didn't sleep very well last night, and then my daughter, my oldest one, my 20-year-old, woke up at 8 o'clock screaming, and I obviously didn't know what was going on, so I went running into her room. My husband had only just come back from nights, so he was fast asleep and didn't even hear her. I went running into her room, and a wasp had got into her bedroom window and had woken her. She'd sort of been fast asleep and had woken up to this wasp flying around her face, and it obviously startled her and panicked her, and she woke up screaming. So then, of course, that woke me up, and I thought, oh, do you know what? I'm just going to get up, because as tired as I am, because I don't think I managed to get sleep till about 5 this morning, but as tired as I am, maybe if I don't sleep in too late, I might sleep a bit better tonight. Who knows? Live in hope. Okay, so that's that. So again, I'm going to leave this to dry now, and then I'll come back in probably with some inks and a little bit of the gold wax stuff, just to hit the edges of that and sort of make it a little bit more sort of vintagey and push it back into that background a little bit, because obviously the contrast is quite stark at the moment, and I don't obviously want that to be a main feature. This is just something that's going to sit in the background. So I'm going to go off and do something else for a bit while all these elements dry. I do find with the crackle medium, leaving it to dry naturally, for me, and for the crackle medium that I'm using, leaving it to dry naturally gives me a much nicer, much better crackle when I come to do the final coat. So I will be leaving that one for a bit and just letting that one set up on its own. So I'll come back later, probably this afternoon, with that one, and I'll go and find something else to play with for now. Okay, so that's all dry now, and you can see it's got that sort of sheen to it, and that's the crackle medium that is on there. So now I need to get a paint that's the same colour as the background, or similar colour to the background of this paper, because that's what I'm going to use to line the inside of my hoop in here. Now I don't have exactly the right paint, sorry. I've got this sea spray, but that's just a little bit pale. So I've got some dark grey as well, so I'm going to try and mix up a colour that is between the two. So just find a paintbrush. Okay, so I'm going to start with some of this. Paint's about ready to be used up. It's a bit lumpy. Right, and I'm just going to just a little bit of grey to start with, because I can always add more, but I can't take it away once it's in there. Right, the lump out. There it is. Okay, I've mixed that up. It's still a little bit lumpy, but not horrendously so, and I can use it. So I'm just going to paint this onto the hoop, and hopefully as I paint it on, it should start to crackle. And the trick is to not overwork it. Sort of try and get your layer of paint on and then leave it, really. And you'll get better crackles that way. Okay. If I turn it around to the side that we've just done. There, you can see it's already starting to crackle. So I'm then going to just flip it over and pop it down. Get my camera up a bit higher. And I'm just going to go around the front edge of the hoop. I just realised you might be able to hear my washing machine in the background because I haven't shut my kitchen. Well, I did shut my kitchen door, but then my younger daughter came in to speak to me and has left it open. But not to worry. There we go. Okay, so that's that, and that is cracking beautifully. I can see all around the edge that is really, struggle without actually touching it, and I don't want to ruin it, so I'll show you when it's dried. But that is crackling really nicely. So I'm going to pop that out of the way. And then the other thing that I want to do is paint the bow, the metal bow, if I can find it. Here it is. I just need a scrap piece of paper to put it on. This will do. Okay. So I'm going to give this a nice liberal coat of paint. And I'm trying to get the inside as well. Now, I'm not worried about whether this looks, you know, well painted or anything like that, because it's going to be very vintagey and very shabbied up by the time I finished with it anyway. So I'm just going through and chucking some paint on there. I'm making sure that I've got all the insides done as well, because I do really want to make sure that that brassy colour is knocked back. And when I sand it, some of that brassiness will come back through, but then I will knock it back again with a little bit of paint. Okay, so because I don't have any more of this paint and I can't really mix any, well, I might just be able to scrape a bit more up, but if I can do it without, I will do. So I'm just going to dry this, so I'll pause you while I dry so you don't have to hear the heat tool. Okay, so that's dry enough for me to give it another coat. There we go. So it's looking all quite sort of pristine and this nice sort of duck eggy bluey sort of colour now, but obviously once we take the sanding block to it and we can do a bit of dry brushing with the little bit of indigo that we've got left as well, and that'll sort of shabby it all up within the colour scheme. So again, I'm just going to give that a quick zap with the heat tool and see how close we are to being done. Okay, so that's looking really good, and that's quite a nice sort of opaque coat on it now, so that'll distress back really nicely. But I want to make sure it's really dry before I start trying to distress it, otherwise it'll just sort of peel rather than sand back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the hoop and the bow out into the garden and just let that dry in the open air for a little while, and hopefully that will not take too long to dry, and then we can get back to it. In the meantime, I'm going to go and clean up my paint palette and things like that, and I will start collecting together some bits and pieces that I want to use to embellish the inside of this hoop, and I'm going to go and print the photo of my daughter as well. So I'll be back in a little while when we're ready to go to the next stage. Okay, so this has been sat outside in the sunshine and has all dried, and as you can see it is cracked beautifully. So that's got a really lovely crackled finish to it, and on the top of the frame as well, and the little bow has dried nicely as well, so I can sort of start moving on now. Now for the inside of the hoop, I am going to line it with this paper, so I just need to take a measurement from the hoop, there we go, to 27 centimetres. Okay, so all I'm going to do is make some marks on this piece of paper, and I'm going to go and on my cutter I'm going to go and cut some strips at 27 centimetres in length, and then I can use that to line the inside of the hoop, and then it will match with the other one that I've done. So I'll be back shortly. Okay, so I've cut these down into the 27cm strips now, ready to go on the inside, and I am going to ink all around the edges of it in chipped sapphire, just because I'm not going to be able to line the pattern up completely, because it's, you know, obviously a sheet of patterned paper. It's not going to come in that length. I've got to put it on in 3 separate lengths. So I think actually it looks better just to make a feature of the fact that it's not all one continuous strip, and make it look obvious that it's 3 separate panels. Okay, so I'm just going to go around each piece like this. And it's given it that slightly sort of vintagey, shabby sort of look, but without the vintage brown colour. I'm going with the blue, which ties in the indigo on the outside of the frame. So all I'm going to do with this is take each strip and just glue it inside here like this, and then the last strip will just sort of overlap slightly. So I'll go and glue those in, and then we'll come back and we'll start on the bow. Okay, so that is now all lined with the paper, and I've just sort of trimmed the back edge so that it's flush, so that when I come to glue it onto the backing piece, it will stay. If you get any little bits where it's just sort of torn up a little bit, it doesn't matter with this style anyway, because it's shabby. It is that sort of shabby chic look, but you can just sort of glue them down again with the glue. I'm just using regular tacky glue, and that's that. And then I've got my backing piece, so obviously this is going to get glued on here, something like that, but I just want to work on this piece a little bit first. So I'm going to go over it with a little bit of distress ink. I'm going to use a little bit of the oxide, just a little tiny bit of antique linen, just very subtly, just sort of knocking back that white a little bit so it's not quite so bright, and there's a few different sort of bits of sort of tonal value in there. The other thing that I am going to do is take a zig marker. So I think I'll probably try this one. So this is mid-grey, and it's just a Kuretake clean colour real brush marker, and it's the watercolour pens. And I'm just going to try it up here first and see how dark it is. It might be a bit too dark. Let's see if I've got a slightly paler one. That's better. And I'm just going to just add in a little bit of shadowing around the edges. Just like this. Just to make it look a little bit more three-dimensional. I mean, it is three-dimensional anyway, because obviously it's texture paste, so it's not perfectly flat. But I do find that giving things a bit of a shadow does just help a little bit. Okay. And then it doesn't matter that I've gone on to the texture paste a little bit here and there. That doesn't bother me in the least, because again it just adds to the texture, and gives it that slightly different tone here and there, but because it's a water brush marker as well, I can put a little bit of water on there and just move some of that colour about a little bit and just make it just like that. Okay. I don't know if you're able to sort of really pick that up on the camera, to be honest. There. So you can see that there's just a bit more sort of it sort of sinks into the background but pops out again at the same time. It just gives it a little bit of something extra. And like I say, you won't see an awful lot of it because it's going to be hidden away in the background behind all the elements. But the bits that you do see poking out here and there, it just gives them a bit more life. So I'm going to do that to the rest of them. It's, you know, it is as simple as drawing around the edge and you know, knocking it back a little bit with the water pen here and there, and then we will come back and put it into the hoop. Okay, so that's completed. I now need to glue the hoop down to the backboard here. So again, I'm just going to use my tacky glue, and I'm just going to run a bead of the tacky glue all the way around the outside of this hoop, or the bottom edge of this hoop. This dries clear, so if it, you know, if it does sort of squidge out a bit, that's going to be okay. You won't really notice it. But it does just give me that minute or two to make sure that I've got it lined up where I want it. So I think that's about right. But what I now need to do is I need to go and pop this under some heavy books so that that sets out nice and firm, and the whole thing glues down properly. So I'm going to go and pop this in the other room, and then we will come back and do the bow. Okay, so that's now off setting under some heavy books, and I'm just going to work on this bow. So obviously this is the bow that we painted, and now I just want to distress it back a little bit. So in order to do that, I've got a few things, well, a couple of things. I've picked up, these are sanding blocks. I got mine from my local pound shop, and it's like a spongy sort of thing, but it's got a very rough texture to it, and also an emery board, and that should be enough to enable me to... Now, I don't want to go too heavy too fast, because obviously I don't want to take all of the paint off. I just want to distress it back in areas. so I have finished faffing about with that. It's not exactly the same as the other one. I was struggling to get the brassiness to knock back on this one as easily, and I think that might be because on the original one I think I might have painted it in gesso first before I put all the coloured layers onto it, so I think that's what's made me struggle with it, but it's close enough. I'm happy enough with it. So I've then got this sticky letter. They came in a pack. It's an alphabet pack from Home Bargains, I think they were. I think they were about £1 for the alphabet. So I'm just going to go around the edge with this alcohol marker just to take the white edge off. There we go. And then to make sure it stays in place, I am going to put some hot glue in the centre of the bow, and then I'm going to put O for Olivia. There. Okay, so that's that bow. Okay, so that is now stuck, and I can just trim the edge off, and I'm just going to use my scissors for that. You can use a craft knife, although just make sure you be very careful that you don't sort of cut into your crackled side, because it would be quite easy to damage it. You know, it is only cardboard and paint, so I'm a bit klutzy, so scissors are the best option for me. I always feel like I've got more control over scissors than I have over craft knife. I don't know why. I look at these amazing paper cuts that people do with you know, just a craft knife, and they cut these most intricate pieces, and I think, oh, I don't know how they do it. I literally struggle to cut a straight line with a metal ruler. There we go. Just all around the edge. Back to that side. There we go. So now we've got the backing piece on, and I will just go around the bottom. It doesn't really need it, but just in case there's any bit that's not perfectly cut. Okay, so now I've got the hoop. Now obviously that can go any way up. I can sort of look at how I like the texture paste inside, and choose which way I want my frame to go. The other thing that I will just do at this point is pop a little bit of the gilding stuff onto the frame, if I can see it. It's there, hiding it from myself. So just I apologise, the lighting is going to be all over the place because it's bright but cloudy, so it keeps clouding over. There we go. So I am being quite sort of sparing, because I don't want it to be sort of overly gold and gaudy. Just a bit here and there, and then same on the edges of the frame. Just there we go. Okay, So that's the, just like I say, a little bit of the gold here and there on the frame. And then I'm ready to, I like the harlequin pattern up that way, I think. Now I've got a photo of my younger daughter. It's not the best photo because I've had to print it at home, because obviously we can't go out at the moment to print them professionally, and my printer is not great for printing photos. It doesn't give a very good finish, and it marks so easily when it comes off of the printer, even if you leave it to dry for ages. I have just found that if you sprinkle some talcum powder on it and rub the talcum powder on, it makes it a little bit more durable, but it will still scratch quite easily. But that's what I've got to work with, so that's what I'll work with. So I've got the die that I used to cut the photo, and what I'm going to do is, on this blue piece of paper, I'm just going to draw around the outside edge of this die, like so. Oops, like that. And I'm going to just cut around that. Leaving a little bit of a border. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect. I am going to rough the edges up anyway. Now, if I'd got any navy blue, I would have done it in navy blue, but I don't. So I'm going to do it in this, and then I'm going to go around the edges that you'll see with an alcohol marker in navy blue. So, like that. Should have drawn it on the back really, but there you go. I'm making a hodgepodge of mistakes today. I'll just take as much of that line off as I can. You probably won't see it all that much once I've put the alcohol ink on anyway, but I'm woggling the camera as I rub the pencil line off. I do apologise. Okay. Looking for my paper distresser, but I can't see it anywhere. Not entirely sure what I've done with that. I'll have to do it with a pair of scissors. Okay, so let's start with. Right. So on the scrap of paper, I am going to see what colours will darken it up enough. I think a combination of the two is probably good. So all I'm going to do is take the piece of paper that I've cut, and I'm going to just go over it. Obviously I don't need to do the whole thing, because you won't see the centre of it, because that's where the photo will be. So I'm just taking it well inside that pencil line, and I can still just about see enough of the pencil line to make sure I'm going to the inside of that. And then just with the chisel tip, I'm just laying down some ink. And then I'll go in with this one. So this has got a slightly different sort of tone to it. This is more of a sort of petrol-y, greeny blue. But because it's alcohol ink, it'll all merge together. I think my dark blue is actually starting to run out a little bit. I'll try some of this one as well. So that's a much more blue. again with that petrol-y blue, just to take some of the vividness out of that last blue that I just put on. And that is the beauty of the alcohol markers, is that you can sort of layer them over the top of each other and just keep going until you sort of get to the shade that you want. Okay, and now if I pop the photo on there, you can see that we've just got the dark blue edging, which is what I wanted. Okay, so I am going to rough the edges of this up. So because I can't find my actual distress tool, I'm just going to do it with the edge of the scissors. And this is a good tip, you know, it's a good thing to do if you, like me, you know, I didn't have the next size up in these dies, so I couldn't do a perfect oval frame piece for the photo, even if I'd wanted to, because I don't have that die. So I've had to cut it by hand, and obviously you're never going to get such a perfect job by hand as you would if you'd got the die for it. But by distressing the edge, it does takes away that sort of perfectness anyway. So the fact that you can't cut a perfect oval doesn't matter, because you know, obviously it's not going to end up perfect when you're finished anyway. So that's what we've got. And we've got that, so that's really cute. Okay, so on this one, the photo's on that side, so I think on this one I'm going to put the photo on this side, like so, like that. Okay, so now's the point where I've got to start thinking about what is it that I want to achieve. What elements do I want to build up my picture? So first of all, I'm going to make some cardboard pieces to go in the back of the photo, so that I can pop it up from the back piece. And I will do one on the back of the photo, and I will do one on the back of the blue piece that we've just done, because the frame's very deep, so I want to be able to lift it from that back there, and we'll have things at all different layers throughout the image. So this is just a piece of packaging, and I've just got to be a bit careful, because obviously if I touch the image too much, the ink will come off and we won't have an image. Like I say, normally I would print these in the Photoshop. I'd normally go to Tesco's or Boots or somewhere and print some out from there, but yeah, just not able to this time, but not to worry, they'll still be cute. And if it really bothers me, I can always do some surgery at a later date and swap the pictures out. Right, so I'm going to pop that to one side for now, because that's got the card on the back of it, and I don't obviously want to sort of overly faff with that piece. So okay. So I hope you're all having a nice bank holiday weekend, getting to do some crafty stuff if you're feeling inspired. I know lots of people have been saying on the video I put up yesterday with the magazine giveaway, I know lots of people have been saying that they've been struggling with inspiration a little bit. And even though they've suddenly got all this time, which is what, you know, as crafters, we all, you know, we spend our lives dreaming about it, don't we? Having all this extra time to craft and saying, you know, actually, even with all this extra time to craft, people aren't feeling overly crafty. And obviously, I've not had any extra time because I'm at work still. So, yeah, for me, it's been no extra time and no sort of no inspiration. But we're getting there now. Okay, so I've got some little bits and bobs. So I've been searching and rummaging throughout my craft room. Let me move some of this junk out of the way. There we go. So these are some of the pieces that are left from that paper pack that I'm using for the backing sheet and the inner. And this has got You are my today and all of my tomorrows, and I thought that was really sweet. And on my other daughter's picture, I'd got one that says hello beautiful, so I thought it'd be nice to have a nice saying on Olivia's as well. So I think I'm going to go for that, and that will be somewhere in the background. And I don't know whether I want to do a sort of concertina thing like I did on the other one, or whether I might see if I've got a bit of trim or something. Right, I might just go and have a quick look and see what I've got. So I found this trim in my stash. I think it's one that's come from AliExpress. So it's like an organza ribbon, but it's on an elastic, soft elastic band. So I think I'm going to use that for putting around the edge of my photo. So similar to how I've done it on the other one, but obviously I want to come from the back this time. So it's really hard because I've got to be so flipping careful with the picture. It is frustrating. I wish I'd got a better printer, but you can't have it all, can you? Realise I'm doing that off camera. Useful. So I'm just literally putting dobs of glue and just doing a piece at a time so that I can line it up where I want it, and just so this is going to sort of mirror what I've done on Lauren's picture, but it won't be exactly the same, which I think is quite nice. So they'll both be similar, but different and individual at the same time, a bit like the girls. So I will take some scissors and just snip that like that, and then I'm going to do the same down the bottom here. I'm just going to bring this around. That was Olivia coming in the conservatory making funny noises and then running straight back out again as soon as she realised I was filming. There we go. There we are. Pretty. Okay. Now, I don't like the really bright blue on this edge, so I think I'm going to see if I can dull that down a little bit with some Distress ink. I'll take some black to it if I need to. It is too vibrant for the piece. So, let's see if I've got use one of these ones. That's better. better. Lovely. Okay, so I've also got another one of the frames that I used on the other one, and these are just ones that came from the pound shop around Christmas time. Again, I am just going to shabby it up just a little bit with just a bit of gesso. It's so hot, even the gesso is drying on my hand before I can actually use it. It's horrible, horribly hot. I don't like it. There we go. And there we are. Okay, so I think we're going to have it so that we've got this over to one side with the photo, and then I'll do similar to what I did with Lauren's, and I will need to position it just so that I can pop the frame something like that. So I'll probably stick all of that together and then put it into the frame, so I'll just make it a bit easier, something like that. And then I have been rummaging around through the old stash, and I have found lots of various bits and pieces. So I've got some different metal pieces to the ones that I used on Lauren's. I've also found these musical notes, and my daughter Olivia, she plays the flute, so I thought that would be really cute to have on the side of the frame. So Lauren's has got a pen nib on it because she draws and she's at uni writing her dissertation at the moment, so I thought that was quite apt for Lauren. And Olivia, she does draw, but she's very, very good at flute. She's nearly 15 and she's just doing her grade 6 at the moment, so she's done very well with the flute and she is taking it at GCSE, so I thought that might be quite cute for her, but I want to make it gold, so I'm going to try and use the gilding wax to see if I can make that gold enough to have it off to the side there and have it sort of match in a similar way to the way that Lauren's one does. And then I've got I've found various bits and pieces. So I've got this little wooden bird, I've got a wooden bow, I've got this falling to bits piece, but I'm sure I could use it if I want to. I found a wooden frame, and all these things obviously I could I can colour them, I can paint them, I can heat emboss them, whatever. And add them in, tuck them under, and then I've got some of the flowers, some of the blue flowers off to the side as well, and a few other charms and bits and pieces. So I think that's the next stage, is to start just playing around with placement and how I want things. So what I will probably do for this, because this is the bit that takes me forever because I faff and I'm trying bits here and there and I like that bit, I don't like that bit, etc, etc. So what I will probably do is go away and either go away and do it or do it on camera, but I will I'll speed that bit up so you don't have to sit and listen to me not be able to talk and think at the same time. So I have finished. I've tidied up the desk and put things away. It is actually now the next day again, so we are now on Sunday, but I have finished the piece and I love it. I absolutely love it. I love the photo of Olivia, and I really like that you can see the texture paste in the back of this one. I like how things like this little wooden bow that I painted, and then I did a little bit of like dry brushing over the top. I think I used my fingers with a bit of the paler paint and some of the gold leafing paste. I've used that also on the metal piece, the bird, and turned the little music note gold using the same stuff. And then I've just popped a few little bits in the background, the lovely flowers. So these are the ones that I've made, and these are the ones that I get from Ali, and I've just put a bit of ink on the edge of those just to lift that a little bit. And then some of the stones, and that all coordinates with the earlier one that I did of Lauren. So putting that there so you can see the lighting on that one a bit better. So I think they work beautifully as a pair, and I will be putting them up in my lounge, and I love the fact that it incorporates my absolute love for mixed media art. Recycling, something that would have been thrown away. The hoops obviously were just rubbish that I found in my local store, and also upcycling things that you don't perhaps love as the way that they are. So the metal bows, the brassy gold metal bows I didn't love, but distressed and sort of changed the paint and things. I really, really love them. I've got to say I love that one more. And I think that's because I put a coat of gesso on before I put the colours on that one. This one I just went straight in with the paints, and I haven't got quite such a nice effect on that one, but I still like it. It's still really pretty, and I think, you know, once they're hung it will be absolutely fine. But I really do love both pieces, so I hope you've enjoyed having a look at how I've created these mixed media pieces. Obviously I did this one in much the same way, just using slightly different elements inside, but I like the fact that whilst they're very different, they've also got lots of things that tie them together and make them the piece. Obviously they're both done in the hoops, they've both got the bows with the initial, and the frames are the same, but then you've got lots of slightly different elements and things inside, different pattern on the texture paint. This one's got a little bit of lace ruffle, whereas this one's obviously got a paper ruffle. So they're different but the same at the same time, and I really like it, and I hope that you've enjoyed having a look. If you have, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and if you hit the little bell icon, it will update you every time that I upload a new crafty video. And it would be really nice to have you along for the journey. Don't forget that I will be having a 500 subby giveaway soon. I'm hoping that we will be let out of lockdown before too long, and I'll be able to go and do a little bit of shopping and put together a prize pack for my 500 subby. We'll probably be approaching 1,000 by the time it actually gets there, but we will get there, but hopefully it won't be too long. We can then start working towards that 1,000, because then I can start doing some lives, which should be really good fun. So I hope that you've enjoyed it, and I will see you all again very soon in the next crafty video. Bye for now.